We welcome you to Shamrock Sports. Notre Dame men's basketball had an exclamation mark to their season, knocking off number 25 Pitt inside Purcell Pavilion on senior. The football team doesn't take an off day as they picked up Drew Rudolph this week as their next offensive line coach. Hear from the panel to hear about this breaking news. And then Notre Dame Hockey was able to earn home ice for the Big Ten quarterfinals. They'll take on Michigan State. Hear the panel as they feel about going into the weekend. And then earlier this week, Notre Dame women's basketball earned the regular season title. We'll break that news down, as well as some more news as Mike Brey comes to a close here at Notre Dame. And we'll talk everything Mike Brey. It's Notre Dame in the loosest college basketball show at Shamrock Sports, starting right now. Student Center and onto the NDTV for a special episode of Shamrock Sports along a star-studded crew. I'm Jacob Irons, and this Shamrock Sports episode will take a new approach to the top stories in Notre Dame athletics. First, alongside Ryan Murphy, we'll break down the highlights and the most current news regarding the headlines. Then we'll get reaction and break down the information from the fans' perspective. We'll send you to our panel with our bundles of energy, Tyler Reedy, Andrew McGinnis, and JJ Post, as they provide their rapid-fire debate between the trio. Now that we have the format set, Ryan, are you ready to rock and roll?
Is the leprechaun Irish? Of course I'm ready to start.
I hope he's Irish. However, let's get going to Mike Brey, where we start on the hardwood, where Mike Brey stated Tuesday in his pregame media availability, when asked how he would celebrate after coaching in his final game inside Pavilion, he revealed he would enter Notre Dame hallowed grounds for the first time following the contest. Let's take a look.
I'm very proud of this staff. I have never stepped foot in the linebacker in 23 years. I know you don't believe that. I've never been in it, but I'm going in tomorrow night. it became a thing, like, you know, obviously it's not my crowd probably, even though they say the burgers are good for lunch. Somebody told me that. Anyway, I've never really gone in there. And then it was like, nah, I'm not going in there. It's a merit badge. I've never been in a linebacker. And people from out of town go, yeah, man, you know, we're coming to go to the backers. Never been there. So I'm going tomorrow. And we're closing that sucker. There ain't no curfew tomorrow.
Now let's see if Mike Brey would celebrate more than just retirement as he took on the number 25th in ACC leading Pitt Panthers on Wednesday night. All right, let's get it started. Pitt leading by 2. Cormac Ryan would set the tone early with a highly contested 3 to start the hot night for the graduate student. Then, later in the first, Notre Dame leading by 2. Nike Sembi would launch a 3 to get Pitt back out in front. And then, however, it would not last long. Marcus Hammond, the only senior being graduated as he's a graduate student, would answer with a 3 of his own from the corner, a ba-bang. And then, Endy leading by 11 in the first. In transition, Trey Ward sees it, Dave Goodwin, who breaks, pops, skirts over, and hits it. Notre Dame would finish the half on a 14-2 run. Now, moving to the second half, Notre Dame would stay hot as Ben Allen Lubin, the freshman, would back down graduate student Jamarius Burton to put ND up 16 with that. Then, later in the second, leading by 14, Pitt would start to close the gap thanks to Nelly Cummings with a step-back 3 over Matt Zona. And then his drive to the basket, pulling Zona with him. Cummings getting it downhill. Pitt comes in within 11. Then, with under a minute to play, and ND up 8, Cummings would inbound the ball to Burton, who launches a 3 against Ryan and gets the roll to put ND only up 5. With 20 seconds to play, though, Trey Ward passes it off to a streaking Cormac Ryan and slams it down to put the exclamation mark, and Notre Dame hangs on to beat Pitt 88-81. Murph, what a game that was.
Yeah, and I don't know if you actually saw this in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, but the headline for the game was Shamrock, number 25 Pitt loses a crucial game to Notre Dame.
Yeah, you would have to know. However, we at NDTV like to follow the story and to continue playing on that. The linebacker, could say, was shamrocking, but we do have a little evidence as some of our own media members here went into the linebacker. Let's take a look. There we have our correspondents ventured into the backer to follow the story. As you can see, the fearless producer and stage manager, Jake Miller, on the left, and our panelist, JJ Post, on the right. We're able to confirm that Mike Brey did indeed get to the backer. And now to break down the loosest college basketball coach, some ways say, in a very Mike Brey-approved attire to discuss the top moment as the winningest coach, we send it to our fabulous panel. Guys, what's rolling?
Tyler Reedy alongside JJ Post and Andrew McGinnis, rocking the Hawaiian shirts here on this Friday afternoon, this snowy Friday afternoon, I'll add, here at NDTV. Obviously, so much to celebrate Wednesday night and, of course, over the whole 23-year career of Mike Brey here at Notre Dame. But each of you two, as juniors, have had the opportunity to spend last couple of seasons on this campus along with Mike Brey. So what I want to know is, what's your favorite memory of the man himself over his time at ND?
Well, I mean, I think you got to start off by talking about Mike Brey, the guy, because the best way to describe Mike Brey is an everyman. He was someone that you never felt like, even though he was the coach of the basketball team, one of the most famous programs at Notre Dame, he never felt like he was above you. He was a guy that was willing to talk to you, even when we ventured into the backer, and he was able to give us a quote. We won't quote him on anything that he said, but there were some good ones. That being said, in terms of memories, I think it's got to be the 2013 Louisville game for me. 5 overtimes, a game against a team that would go on to win a national championship that I don't think technically counts as a national championship anymore, but they did win a game held in the Final Four site on the last game of the season. But that was kind of a game where, as a kid, growing up a Notre Dame fan, you know, as the clock kind of ticked down, it was past midnight, 5 overtimes, you're kind of sitting in your basement, wrapped in a blanket, trying to wait to go to bed. Notre Dame kept on fighting, and that was kind of the epitome of a Bray team. You know, they weren't always the most spectacular, but they were always fun, and they always kept on fighting. I think that was the game that kind of summarized his tenure best.
Yeah, I mean, we're wearing these shirts to honor, of course, I almost forgot. We're wearing these shirts to honor Mike Brey's attire, or lack thereof, from when the Irish won the 2017 Maui Invitational Tournament. But I want to go back to a different tournament that Notre Dame won, and, you know, a lot of great things happened during Mike Brey's time here, but the biggest banner in Purcell Pavilion that's going to honor his legacy is that 2015 ACC Championship banner that's hanging from the rafters at Purcell. That Irish team, so talented. Jaron Grant, Pat Connaughton, Zach August, Demetrius Jackson, Steve Astoria, some good guys coming off the bench as well who played a big role in future seasons as well. Just so much talent, a classic Mike Brey team that shot the ball incredibly well and gave it their all on defense, made up for their lack of size and short rotation with that shooting and all that good stuff. And, you know, to go from one of the worst teams in the ACC in Notre Dame's first year in the conference the season prior to winning the ACC that year and then going to the Elite Eight that season and the next year, just some of his best coaching and moments that I'm going to remember for a really long time.
Yeah, and the perspective from the students is a big thing to talk about as well, because unlike the majority of other coaches in America, Mike Brey did a heck of a job relating to the student body, relating to his student athletes. Such a great people person, as he was often described, and that'll help him a ton even after Notre Dame, whether he goes into broadcasting or potentially a next head coaching gig somewhere else. But I want to talk about, you know, what did he mean to you as students? You know, JJ, you had the big poster the other night at the Pitt game, the iconic image of him standing on the South Dining Hall table, firing students up. How much did that mean to you guys, having him form that relationship with the student body?
Yeah, I think Mike Brey's one of his priorities was always to have an engaged student body. He was a guy that I think knew that for Notre Dame, you're never going to have the biggest crowd in the world. You're never going to have the national interest. So you got to play to, you know, the kids that are going to be there every game in and game out. And for Notre Dame, that wasn't a lot. And he was a guy that understood that and wanted to give them his all. And he always did.
Yeah, that level of passion that JJ's talking about was just really unmatched by most coaches. You know, obviously, like you were saying, Notre Dame men's basketball, it's never going to be the forefront of Notre Dame athletics. But Mike Brey did his best to make it a key part of campus life here. When Notre Dame men's basketball was at its peak, you saw that. And you saw it last year, too, when they were able to bounce back and have a big season, finishing at the top of the ACC and making it into March Madness. That interest level was there, and it was there when the team was good, but it was even better because of the special person that Mike Brey was and how his personality carried over to all quarters of campus.
All right, let's flip it over now from the hardwood to the gridiron and send it back to the main desk with some news on the Notre Dame football team.
Thanks, guys. It looks 20 degrees warmer with the Hawaiian shirt attire, doesn't it, Jake?
It really does. I think they should skip some midterms. I think they should maybe skip those midterms and maybe just head right to SBN and get on a flight to head to a little tropical. I know McGinnis is looking pretty good.
Agreed. Nevertheless, before the goo can let out for some R&R, there is one concern plaguing Marcus Freeman and the newly appointed offensive coordinator Jared Parker. The two are still looking to replace offensive line coach Harry Hiestand, who announced on February 12th he was stepping away from the team to allow for more time with his family. Earlier this week, Irish Illustrated announced on Monday that Virginia Tech's offensive line coach and run game coordinator Joe Rudolph is expected to be hired by the program as the Irish look to develop one of the best tandems in college football on the offensive line between Blake Fisher and Joe Alt. Rudolph spent 7 years as Wisconsin's offensive line coach before joining Brent Pry's staff at Virginia Tech, where he made his name as one of the top coaches. It should not be a surprise to anyone that Rudolph found himself with Marcus Freeman. The two were introduced to each other at Ohio State, where Freeman was a linebacker and Rudolph served as a graduate assistant and strength coordinator. Yet, what has made this situation so interesting has been Rudolph's social media presence regarding his departure from Blacksburg. He posted this announcement on his Twitter Monday, stating, quote, "Sometimes the moment you feel at home and comfortable, God pushes you in a new direction and presents you with new challenges. You may fight and resist, but eventually you must face what God is way more powerful than you, and God works on a schedule that is oftentimes different than yours." While Rudolph took a vague approach to his departure from the Hokies, Brent Pry, who enters his second season as Virginia Tech's head man, was a little more definite, posting this graphic on his Twitter on Monday, which says, and I quote again, "I want to congratulate Joe Rudolph on his opportunity at Notre Dame. We are thankful for Joe and his many contributions to our program. We fully support him in this career opportunity. I wish Joe, Don, and the boys all the best." Now, to get a reaction to this news, we send it back to the panel, who appears to have found their more traditional South Bend attire for a 30-degree day. Guys?
All right, thanks, Ryan. Welcome back to the panel. Tyler Reedy, JJ Post, Andrew McGinnis, with you once again to talk about the brand new hire for Notre Dame football. Joe Rudolph spending his time at Wisconsin, 1 year at Virginia Tech, and now over here to South Bend. And JJ, I'll start with you. Big shoes to fill with Harry Hiestand out the door. What is your reaction to this news?
Yeah, it's an interesting evaluation for sure. Let's be clear. It's a good hire. But there are some notes that I think people tend to overlook when discussing Rudolph, which is, for one, the development. Rudolph is a great recruiter. He got 2 5-stars to Wisconsin. That's not an easy feat by any means. That being said, neither of them panned out. Nolan Rushi, one of his highest-rated recruits ever, he only spent a year with him, and he hasn't really developed so far. Logan Brown, another super highly rated Rudolph recruit, just was a bust straight up. So it's interesting to look at kind of that contrast between, someone who can very clearly recruit, and that is a priority Freeman, but also his greatest successes with terms of personnel on the line were a couple players, and you look at some of the guys that Wisconsin put in the NFL, guys that weren't necessarily the highest rated recruits ever, guys that he trained up from being 3 stars or low 4 stars and made into NFL stars. So it's interesting that he seemed to have more success with the lower rated recruits than the higher ones, but it's good regardless that he got the higher rated recruits. In terms of his performance as a run game coordinator, let's get one thing straight. Joe Rudolph as an offense coordinator is not it. Those offenses at Wisconsin were, frankly, pretty abysmal. That being said, they're not bringing him to call plays. They're bringing him to consult on plays, and that's something I think Freeman will value as he has experienced and has a lot of time at different programs and different environments.
Yeah, a lot of great points there from JJ, and I think just the best way to sum this up is that it's a good hire. It's not a great hire, and that's okay. A lot of the time, the reaction is that either every home run or every hire has to be a home run or it has to be a total bust. There are going to be hires in the middle. And, maybe with our offensive coordinator, that's a bigger issue. I know a lot of people were not thrilled with the Jared Parker decision to go with him rather than one of the bigger names, maybe get Andy Ludwig or someone. At least prove that you're willing to spend big money. But for an offensive line coach, which is already a strength of Notre Dame's roster, I think it's fine to have someone who's merely just a good but not great coach, who has some pluses, who has some minuses on his resume. So I like the hire. I don't love it, and we'll see how it plays out. But I think for now, it's a solid choice for Freeman, and rounds out the coaching staff very well, even if it's not an absolute slam dunk.
So looking ahead to 2023, you have this Irish offense, bring back its 3 main running backs, Chris Tyree, Audric Estime, Logan Diggs, and obviously Sam Hartman looking to electrify the offense from the quarterback position as well. Do you think this hire will have any major impacts on the offense moving forward, or should Irish fans continue to be excited, do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a stabilizing hire. This is a hire where you don't try and break the bank. This is a hire you don't try to try something new. You get someone that has a proven track record, someone who, he's not going to bring any new innovative ideas to this Notre Dame offense, but that's not what you hire an offensive line coach for. You hire an offensive line coach to effectively run the dang ball, and that's what he did at Wisconsin. That's the hire I think Freeman wanted to make. He doesn't want to try to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. He wants an effective line, and I think given that the 2 centerpieces that Rudolph will have to build off of, Joe Alt and Blake Fisher, both very well could be first-round picks this year or the next, I think that this is something that Notre Dame can expect to have. I don't think this is going to be a hire that changes the offense. I think it's one that just stabilizes it.
I think it's kind of interesting when you look at just the development of Notre Dame's coaching staff within the offense. You've obviously got an experienced hire on the offensive line to focus on the run. in Joe Rudolph, where he's looking at wide receivers, which hasn't been Notre Dame's traditional strength going back over the last, however many years. And they went out last season and got a younger guy in Chancey Stuckey, a bit more high risk, high reward. So far, it seems pretty good. But for the run game, which has been a bread and butter staple of Notre Dame's offense, they're going to get someone more experienced. I think that's an indication that Freeman, senses that this is more important for the offense. He's got a pulse on, what he wants the team to look like. And I think that's a good decision for him.
So that's big news, but maybe not even the biggest here on campus around Notre Dame. Let's send it over for some breaking news now.
Good afternoon. We bring you breaking news today here at the University of Notre Dame. Just minutes ago, the Notre Dame Student Union Board announced its biggest event ever. On March 24th in the Steppin Center, Sub will be hosting its Sound of Sub concert. This year's Sub welcomes Noah Kahan and Chelsea Cutler as co-headliners. Again, Noah Kahan and Chelsea Cutler are coming to Notre Dame. Kahan is a folk pop artist known for songs such as Stick Season and Homesick. This fall, Kahan was touring across America with international touring dates planned for this spring. Kahan has gained popularity for playing at smaller venues and taking time to engage with you, the fans, at each one of his shows. Chelsea Cutler embraces a more electric type of pop music. She's known for You Were Good to Me and This Is How You Fall in Love. Cutler and Kahan have teamed up in the past for their song Crazier Things. Kahan and Cutler will be joined by 3 student openers, followed by an additional opening band, Briscoe. Tickets will be available this upcoming Monday, March 8th at 5 p.m. for Notre Dame undergraduate students. Tickets cost $18 each. If tickets are still left and any are remaining, tickets will be made available to St. Mary's and Holy Cross undergraduate students on Wednesday, March 10th at 10 a.m. All tickets include a meal from various food trucks, as well as the opportunity to partake in various carnival games. For more information, visit Sub on Instagram at SUBND. It's an exciting time on campus. To stay updated on all Notre Dame events, stay tuned to NDTV. That's all for now. For NDTV, I'm Jake Irons.
Thanks, Jake, for that breaking news. Now let's move to the ice, where Irish hockey will host Michigan State in the first round of the Big Ten tournament beginning tonight, which should have Compton Family Ice Arena rocking. The Irish were able to earn home ice after sweeping Michigan at Yost Ice Arena last weekend. Going into the series, Notre Dame knew that they needed to strike gold in Ann Arbor in order to come home this weekend. So let's take you through the highlights from last weekend, beginning on Friday. And we'll start in the third period with the game tied at 2. The Irish capitalize on an offensive zone face-off win. Drew Bavaro finds the creeping Jack Adams, who shovels one up and over the shoulder of Eric Portillo. Irish lead by 1 with 13:52 to go. Michigan would answer, later sending the game into overtime on a goal by Adam Fantilli. Bischel here makes a huge save in overtime against the charging Rucker McGroarty. As usual, Bischel was stellar in this game, finishing with 32 saves. The game goes to a shootout. Nick Lieberman shoots first. He dipsy doodles and outweights Portillo. Bischel makes the final save, and Notre Dame gets a huge 2 points in the shootout in order to go into Friday's game with a chance still to, or Saturday's game, I should say, with a chance still to secure home ice. Moving on to that Saturday game, now we have a scoreless game going into the third. Irish on the power play here as Drew Bavaro rockets one into the back of the net to get Notre Dame out front. This game, just like Friday's night game, though, would go to overtime as Michigan tied it up. Late in overtime, or early in overtime, I should say, Michigan dominating. Hunter Strand makes a great defensive play and then feeds Drew Bavaro streaking up that right side for a 2-on-1 chance. That develops into a 2-on-2, but third time the charm for Bavaro as he hacks and whacks home his own rebound. Irish pick up the huge 2-1 overtime win and will be coming home this weekend for the quarterfinals of the Big Ten tournament. The series is a best of 3, and the puck drops on Game 1 at 7 p.m. Game 2 tomorrow, it will start at 4:30, and then if necessary, Sunday's game will start at 6 o'clock, Jake. Should be a great overall series.
Hey, missed a cue card there, but hey, you know what, Murph? As long as ND and Bischel right now, they can do anything, anyone in hockey at any given level. Notre Dame can beat them in how they currently are playing. However, if you are unable to make it to Compton this weekend, no worries. WVFI, the student radio station, will be bringing you all the action. Series kicks off tonight at 7 p.m. like Murph said. And me and Murph are back together again, baby. Back together as we'll bring you the quarterfinals. And I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to that one tonight.
Absolutely. It should be a great weekend of hockey, and hopefully Notre Dame will be able to keep rolling and position themselves to make the semifinals. Further preview of the matchup, we'll send it back to our panel for a further preview of the matchup against Michigan State, who appears to have brought a prop for the segment. Tyler, what are you guys doing over there?
Well, we're getting ready to go. I'll tell you what, I can't wait to hear those words for the first time in a couple hours here tonight. It's hockey night in South Bend. I know all three of us will be headed over across the parking lot just after the show to be in there in that packed student section and packed Compton Family Ice Arena tonight. But let's talk about this team because it has been an incredible ride, securing home ice against really improbable odds over the last 2 weeks with some help from Wisconsin. How far do you think this team can go? Where's their ceiling?
Well, I think it's really helpful to look at some recent NHL teams, and it's no secret that this Irish team is carried heavily by their goaltender, Ryan Bischel. Notre Dame, they get outshot most nights. Bischel's been fantastic, save percentage of over .930 this season, and, that can go two ways. Look at teams like the 2019-20 Vancouver Canucks or last year's Dallas Stars teams that got sensational goaltending from guys like Thatcher Demko and Jake Ottinger, and they had some guys up front who were talented and some good players on their back end, too. They ultimately went out early. They flamed out in the first or second round, weren't able to make a deep run, but it is possible for a team that is dependent on its goaltender to go on a deep run. We saw it with the New York Rangers last year, with the Montreal Canadiens the year before. If that team can catch fire, just a couple guys up front on the back end can get their games in the right place, and you've got a goaltender like Bischel who knows how to carry a team throughout the entire season, who can stay hot, hopefully in the playoffs, in the Big Ten, and hopefully the NCAA tournament as well. It's a dangerous formula. You never want to be a team going up against a goaltender as good as Ryan Bischel. So it's going to be tough for this Notre Dame team to make a deep run if they don't have guys stepping up around him, but they've got the talent for that to not be the case. And hopefully, as the season shortens now, that some of the Notre Dame players who are talented but didn't maybe have the best seasons, guys like Landon Slaggert, who struggled to score for most of the year, can turn it on and lead the Irish on a deep run.
Yeah, I think the question really is just which Irish team shows up. This is an Irish team that, frankly, struggled early on. They went from mid-October to late January without winning a series outright. They've really had a streak of, games that lasted, 3 months where it felt like they'd win the first, but they couldn't get the second, or they'd lose the first and then they'd rebound in the second. They couldn't find consistency. Over the last month or so, this Irish team has found consistency. They went on the road, in Ohio State. They went on the road against Michigan, and they took Ohio State home and beat both those teams. Those are two teams that are above them in the standings. Those are the games that you need to win if you want to go from a fringe bubble team in the NCAA tournament to a team that has a legitimate chance of competing in the NCAA tournament. So I think that's kind of the question for Notre Dame. For as long as Bischel's there, they're going to have a chance. You saw against Michigan. He is a guy that keeps you in games. Michigan outshot Notre Dame in that final game they won to clinch home ice. I believe it was 50-19. The 19 that Notre Dame had, they were way less than Michigan, but they made it count. So it's about being efficient on offense, and it's about letting Bischel kind of lock things down and make sure that no dumb goals are given up. There's a lot. It's very easy in hockey to give up a cheap goal and really ruin your chances. Bischel really lowers the odds of that happening, and for Notre Dame, that's what they need to step up.
And looking more specifically at this weekend itself, likely a win and in scenario for either team, Michigan State or Notre Dame, for the NCAA tournament. Both teams sitting right on the bubble here. How important is having home ice for this Fighting Irish team?
Well, it's massive. The last 2 seasons, Notre Dame has been sensational on home ice. After really having a tough season in the COVID season of 2020-21, they really struggled at home that year without the crowds. And, with those returning over the last few years, we've seen this Notre Dame team really turn up their intensity on home ice. Obviously, the 2 wins against Ohio State were particularly emotional, in part because they thought it might be the final home game for a lot of those seniors and graduate students. And so for them to come back here, it's going to be a really special weekend, I believe. And I think those guys especially are going to step up big time for this Irish team and look to keep their season going for as long as possible.
Yeah, it's not worth mincing words. This Notre Dame team is better on the home than they are away. They want to be in front of the home crowd, and with the seniors knowing it might be their last game, there's going to be that extra motivation to go out and get a win and end on a good note. So I think that's going to be something that emotionally is playing the team. I think the crowd, you can see from the student reactions to the big win and how the ticket sales have been going. This is going to be a game that's well attended. I think if you're Notre Dame, you're really happy that you're going to have to play this essentially playing game in front of your faithful who are going to be making noise all night.
And it's especially important in a best of 3 too, as opposed to the rest of the tournament, which is single elimination, to have home ice for this.
Yep, Irish likely face Minnesota should they move on from this weekend, but Notre Dame hockey not the only team on campus playing through its conference postseason as of this weekend. The women's basketball team playing in the ACC tournament as well. Let's go back to the desk for it.
Well, thank you, guys. Looks like the trio's got some high hopes for the weekend, and maybe to quote Andrew McGinnis, if they can live up to your Montreal Canadiens, Murph, from 20 to 21, they might have a shot here.
Here's to hoping they don't break my heart quite like the Habs did a few years ago, Jake.
But now the bigger question is at the current moment is how does a New Hampshire resident become a Canadians fan instead of a Bruins fan. I'm just saying that does not make sense as a fellow New Englander. I'm a Connecticut resident. I don't get how that one comes across.
It's a hard thing to do, but I pull it off pretty well, I think.
I think you do too. I think you too. However, on Sunday, Notre Dame women's basketball team locked up the regular season title with their come-from-behind victory against Louisville in a game that will go down as potentially one of the grittiest games the team has played all year. They did get a little help from the Tar Heels as they were able to upset Duke on Sunday to allow for Notre Dame to possess the sole title. However, moving to a more pressing issue coming out of Sunday is the status of Olivia Miles as she went down with a knee injury. With 2:39 left in the first half, she drives to the basket and appears to knock knees with the Louisville defender, ultimately forcing the sophomore stud to go down in pain and lose the ball. Ultimately, she would be helped and assisted to the locker room. She would not re-enter the game heading into today's ACC quarterfinal versus number 8 ranked NC State. She is out indefinitely and remains on a day-to-day watch list throughout the rest of the season. This potentially could be a huge loss for the Irish as they have high aspirations heading into the NCAA tournament, which starts on March 17th. Irish would pick up more hardware before heading to Greensboro. Olivia Miles and Sonia Citron picked up ACC first-team All-ACC selections for both their fabulous seasons, as Olivia Miles led the Irish on a per-game basis in points, rebounds, and assists for the season throughout. And then for Sonia Citron, this was a year of development for the sophomore as she took on a more definite role for the Irish on the offense as the Irish were limited in the front court. The players were not the only ones ranking in the hardware, as it was announced earlier this week that Niele Ivey would be the ACC's Coach of the Year, becoming the conference's first black female coach to win the honor. She led the team to an ACC outright regular season title for the Irish in just her 3rd year at the helm. And man, oh man, I know they're playing right now, Murph. You have been keeping an eye on that game for us all.
Right now it's 66-60, about to go final. Actually, the Irish are going to pick up a big win, leading 66-60 with about 10 seconds left, Jake, so it'd be a huge win for this women's basketball team.
It would be a huge win, and that would move them to the semifinals ultimately to set them up to potentially go win the ACC tournament, which they have been hoping to do all year long. However, we're going to stay in the hardwood, but we're going to transition. As it is Mike Brey's technically last week here as the coach in a coaching manner, we thought we would bring back maybe an NDTV special. We would bring back nothing more, Murph, than trivia. We're bringing trivia back, and we're going to send it to Tyler Reedy, who has the great job, as a guy who did it last week, hosting this trivia contest between two juniors. Tyler, let's take it away, man.
All right, thank you so much, Jake. Here we go. Mike Brey trivia. It's time. JJ Post versus Andrew McGinnis. Who will come out on top? See who knows the 23-year
Last week is any
head coach
indication.
record.
Yeah, it's went so well for both of us.
Hopefully we don't tie at 0.
All right, so let's get started. Question number 1. Right out of college, Mike Brey had a goal for his career. Was it A, to become a head coach of a D1 Power 5 Catholic program, B, attain a high school head coaching job and stay there for 40 years, or C, become an assistant coach under one of the all-time greats such as Jim Boeheim or Coach Mike Krzyzewski?
We reveal our answers.
Are you both ready? Let's see them. B is correct. So both
with the tie, baby.
Both JJ and Andrew, B for Bray, off to a 1-for-1 start.
Beat last week.
All right, coming up next, true or false with question number 2. In 2014, Bray walked over to a Syracuse player at midcourt and made him a proposition. He said, I'll give you $100 if, on the inbound pass, you bank that thing in right here from out of bounds. True or false? All right, gentlemen, let's see those answers. True is correct. JJ takes a 2-1 lead.
It's Mike Brey, Andrew. You're telling me gambling and Bray doesn't go together?
I got fooled on like the too absurd narrative last time.
It's Mike Brey. The absurd becomes the reality.
All right, on to number 3. We'll see if this one's any more unexpected, but Mike Brey's son, Kyle, is a head football coach at IMG Academy in Florida. However, another member of his family was also an accomplished athlete. His mother competed in the Olympics, but which sport did she compete in? All right, the answers? Hurdles and track and field, both of those are incorrect. It was swimming. So in the water, not.
Isn't hurdles just track and field? I'm rethinking my answer there.
All right, on to number 4. Still 2-1 JJ here. Mike Brey interviewed for the Notre Dame job twice, once in 1999 and later successfully in 2000. However, in 2000, he was not considered the favorite for the job. Which current basketball broadcaster was Notre Dame hoping to land, going as far as flying to Italy to interview him during his honeymoon? Was it A, Jay Billis, B, PJ Carlesimo, C, Stan Van Gundy, or D, Rick Carlisle? All right. Show us those answers.
I just want this one to be true.
Once again, both incorrect. It was B, PJ Carlesimo.
Seton Hall legend.
So a low-scoring game. Hope you took the under here, but JJ holding on to the 2-1 lead as we move on to question number 5. Our final question. So Andrew's last chance to force the tiebreaker.
You got to believe.
During one trip, Rod Balanis had to take a history test under Bray's supervision. While filling out answers in Bray's hotel room, Balanis heard Bray shout, "Another illegal hit," and slap Pete Strickland, a fellow assistant, on the back. Balanis looked up from his exam and realized Bray had been watching a game and doing precisely 0 test proctoring. Which game was it? A, Duke men's basketball, B, Notre Dame football, C, Chicago Bears football, or D, Baltimore Ravens football? All right, for all the marbles, let's see those answers.
I went absurd this time. It better not be wrong.
And it is C, Bears football. JJ takes the win 3-1 in Mike Brey trivia. JJ, your final thoughts on the victory here.
Follow me on Twitter, Mike, please.
Do it, Mike. He's very funny.
All right, well, that'll do it here for the show. Our final show before spring break. To all our Notre Dame students watching, we wish you a safe and healthy spring break, and good luck on midterm exams as well for everyone else. Happy weekend as well, coming up with all the sports, Notre Dame hockey, women's basketball, and everything else in between. Enjoy the show. For JJ Post and Andrew McGinnis here on the panel, Jake Irons and Ryan Murphy on the desk, and everyone involved in production, Jake Miller, our stage manager, Kieran Cantwell behind the scenes as well. Thank you to all of them for helping making today's show possible. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.